It's time to open this deluxe boxed set, the last in a series, at least for now, of Beatles albums. I hope they do more. Maybe they'll go back and do the ones that they haven't gotten to yet, all the albums before Sgt. Pepper and maybe even Magical Mystery Tour. But for now, this is it. You'll see a few other goodies peeking out here on either side. We're going to get to those as well. On the left, the book from the original 1970 British boxed set of Let It Be. On the right, the 2003 sort of reimagining of this same album, and I've got that on vinyl as well. So we'll look at those later, as well as the original American pressing. But for now, let's open up this 5 LP box. Before we open it, see the contents to the side. We'll see. Nice. Is this printed on here, or is this a piece of paper? Depends on some of these sets. This one, though, is printed. Okay. If you've noticed my other videos, I always try and keep the wrap. I don't know how I'm going to do that here. Okay, there's a nice little, oh, you couldn't see that. There's a nice little seam here down the center. Let's see if I can go along that. Spine of this Let It Be is very similar to the British copy that I have. Probably the American one too. It stopped. All right. It's not the best. I didn't plan this well. I should have gotten the X-Acto knife, but this is doing it. Here we go. Okay, you little seam. Oh, almost got it. Okay, so now I'm going to try and fold these in and keep the plastic on. First, let's get some of these. We'll get Let It Be out first. So I went and grabbed the British copy, and as you can see, a little bit of difference there. I thought there was a reddish hue to the originals. This one has even more so. And then here's the outer sleeve. So you can see they sort of took the softness of this, combined it with this, a little bit of this, and then you get this. All three look good to me. I mean, come on. It's tough to make this look bad. The angle that I'm at, by the way, is probably making these look a little distorted as far as the skew, but no, they're all the same. Actually, no, I take that back. This one seems a tiny bit stretched. Look at this. Okay, so the original and the reissue for the disc only match. I never noticed this. Can you see this? Look, Ringo's hair is cut off at the back here. Here you can see it with even some space. So this is a little stretched. This is looking pretty good, and I'm sure you wanted to see how those line up. Looking good. The disc. Oh, the black inner sleeve. I like that. Apple always did that. And there's the Apple itself. All of that looks correct to me. Looks nice. Even if it's not 100% the same, still looks good. This, oh wow. This is a nice package. These are the photos from the back of the original, which we didn't even look at. No, they flopped it. But check this out. Just noticing this. Look how much darker these are than these. I mean, look at that. You can't even see the background for John on this one, but you can here. So, although this might be a little more artsy. Whatever. This being in mono, most of it, this is the, they've always wanted to keep the Nagra stuff separate. Oh, this is just like the American gatefold, but in black and white. All right, that's cool. It's a very classy package, you know. Black and white and Beatles, they've always done well with that. This has got to have the same apples, I'm sure. Oh, no, oh, nice. It's got the acetate thing. I like that they've been using this on the different sets. The Abbey Road set, the, I'm sorry, I don't think they're using it. These are the All Things Must Pass set and the White Album set, and now this. But what I was going to say was this is the stuff that was recorded at Twickenham at the film studio in mono on the recorders that were just for the film crew. They've always wanted to keep that material separate, as I'll explain later. Separate from the official, real, quote-unquote, sessions. This, oh my goodness, I didn't know this came with such a lavish book. Wow. Oh man, this is giant. This is going to take me a while to go through. I still haven't watched the actual Get Back 6-7 hour thing, and I probably won't because just too sad. This is great. This is really well done. I mean, that's not a surprise. Okay, coming home. I'm going to do this one first because I know what you're waiting to see. It's the one after this. This is the 12-inch single that has, if memory serves, okay, unreleased mix of Across the Universe and I Me Mine. And having heard those already online, I am almost positive those are taken off an acetate. The sound quality is not great, but it's nice to have them here. And then this new mix of the single B-side Don't Let Me Down, B-side of Get Back, and a new mix of the single version of Let It Be, which is slightly different, of course, than the album version. There's also this very cool thing that comes for the Let It Be book, the new Get Back book. And then this is what we've all been waiting to see for the last 50 years. Would have been so great that that would have been the last album cover, the duality with the Please Please Me cover. But, you know, we still get it. We've, of course, got to see this photo a few years later in the Blue album. And this has got the Glyn Johns version of the album. Had it been released in 1969 or at any point before Phil Spector got involved. And, oh, the Apple is just a regular Apple. So I'm looking forward to hearing this, seeing what the sound quality is like and how it differs. Here's a comparison of just the discs of the American versus the British. Right off the bat, you can tell my American version on the left is not in the best shape. The one I had before this, and it's in one of my other videos, was a fake. They made so many counterfeit copies, and you could tell because of the graininess and a little bit of extra redness in the skin tones. The disc itself, there were some telltale signs like in the run out. You probably know all this if you're watching this video, and you can go look up my other video if you really want to hear about it. But this is an actual original. You'll notice there's no bleed through all around. I mean, there's a tiny bit, but not like a fake one. There's not the outline of another hole as if they had copied it from that, taken a photograph from that. This has Phil and Ronnie and the bell sound thing. That's the kind of stuff, you're not going to really be able to tell that detail in a video like this, but you probably know about it and you can look up nice, sharp photos for it. So this, I really like that gatefold. I mean, who doesn't? Oh, you can't see it. Put it like that. The British version, oh, there's a whole lot in here, has no gatefold. Unfortunately, it's just a single pocket. The back covers, though, looking almost identical, which is nice. This is just the outline of ring wear. It's not actual ring wear. I don't know why I'm concerned that people online might think my records are worn. Despite the red apple in the American version, you've got the beautiful green apple here, just as expected. Very nice sounding album. And my copy has, these are, of course, this is a photocopy. This was sandwiched inside some of the shrink wrapping of this album when it was sold in Great Britain, because it mentions the 56-page book. But I just thought that was cool. I found it online one day, so I made a copy. This other thing you may have spied, this Apple poster, and this was available, I've heard, in other Apple albums, but this came with original copies. Just talked about the different Apple releases you could get at the time. And it's got not just Beatles ones, but pretty much everything. That looks like everything through the end of '69, because this album is December of '69. And I don't see anything on here from 1970. So they didn't bother with Ringo's. I think the next one after this in Great Britain would have been Ringo's Sentimental Journey, and then Let It Be. I'm sorry, then McCartney, and then Let It Be. So this is only 1969 through the end of '69, this poster. In America, of course, we also got the Hey Jude album, but the Beatles again. But that certainly wouldn't be on a British poster. So now let's have a look at the box. This is the outer packaging Oh, we've got the information about Garrett and Lofthouse. I had forgotten that was on there. Designed by John Kosh, Ethan A. Russell. Some copies have a sticker. You can look online. There's a great website that's got many different releases from around the world of this album. This, sadly, I'm about to show you, is the... yeah. This is why I was able to get mine for the way that I did. This was the, as they refer to it in Rolling Stone magazine, they refer to album jackets, but I'll use the term here, instant fall apart is what this seems to be. The actual, that book would go right here, and then on top of it would be the disc itself, and then it would slide into the, and the poster, of course, and then it would slide into the outer sleeve that we saw earlier. They do make reproductions of this. I got one. It's clearly a different type of cardboard. It doesn't have the perforations, you know, that this does. Different altogether. This is matte, or more matte. Mine, of course, got damaged in transit from Great Britain when I ordered it a couple of years ago, but that's what happens. You gotta order stuff from overseas, and I'm sure it's no better today. But that's the insides of the box set, except for the book. Let's have a look at that book. There are very good reproductions, and I couldn't tell you which of these is which, but I will tell you there's, again, clear differences in the quality of the photography, at least on the cover. Let's see, let's find that same page in here and see how it looks. If they look any different. To me, the one on the left looks a tiny bit sharper. Look at Paul's nose. Well, maybe that's just me. But these both, one of them came with this set when I bought it, and one I'd gotten years before just separately out in the wild. You can see that the alignment is just slightly different on the top. The kerning is a little bit greater, so kerning, the distance between characters. That's how I remember leading, the distance between lines. These are old-timey terms that nobody uses anymore. But one other thing that I noticed in here, fortunately the pages in mine, almost all of them are staying put. So this has got the credits. Some copies, a lot of this was missing, and they had to paste it in. There was a sticker they put in. This copy has that issue, but no sticker. So I'm wondering, did someone, is this one on that has no credits, is that a fake, or is it a very early original where they didn't catch the issue? I don't know, and I couldn't tell you at this point which of these came with my set, unfortunately. But they are pretty much identical in every other way. There's no writing or notices in the back. Some copies have that, so if anyone out there knows, chime in and tell me what the deal is. This album, I've still not pieced together the entire story. I don't think we'll ever know, but it seems like they were considering putting the original Let It Be film back out, remastered from the original, I guess, negatives, so it wouldn't be all blown up and grainy and dark. And at the same time, they started working on sort of reimagining the music portion of it, and this was the result. The film didn't come out then, of course, and as I'm making this video, it still hasn't technically come back out, but this is the vinyl version of that. It was very hard to find back then, and I ended up getting, I think, a dozen of them in all at once online together, and I sold them off for, you know, nice little markup at the time, not realizing that this album was going to be worth $300, $400, $500 in 2021 if I just held on to them. I'm not going to be able to do too much because mine's still in the shrink, and I'm certainly not going to break that open. You can look online and see what the gatefold looks like, but it kind of follows the pattern of the original album. You can look online, of course, again, to see which versions are here versus the original album versus the film, and now versus the box set, the deluxe box set. But this is the original LP. This is what it looked like. And you'll notice mine is in one of these nice MoFi sleeves. I do recommend those, especially because this particular release, this was the original sleeve. And it looks okay, but you notice this poly liner in here. If you watch Parlogram Auctions, his channel, he talks about how awful those are, and they can start leaching onto the vinyl itself and destroy it. So if you've got one of those, especially for this album, get rid of it and replace it. But this came with a booklet you'll see here. Pretty substantial booklet. Many, many pages. Look at that. And this has all the dialogue and everything. So, oh, they've got the liner from Beatles for Sale about the kids of the year 2000. Kevin Howlett did this one. I know Mark Lewison has done a lot of the archival Beatles authorship, and at some point they switched over to Kevin Howlett, and they're both great. No complaints about either of them, but I'm not sure why they switched, because both of them are so knowledgeable. As is Bruce Spicer, hope I'm saying that correctly, who does the phenomenal tomes about different parts of the Beatles' career. Anyhow, this is the fly-on-the-wall disc, and it's just conversation and sort of... I believe what the purpose of this was to get stuff off the Nagra tapes, the first portion of the sessions, which were only recorded in mono for the film crew, not properly recorded multi-track. That's what is on that. Just as in the box set, they've sort of got those sets of sessions still segmented. But that's it for Let It Be Naked. That is a cool little looking EP sleeve. I wish they'd put that out separately or something, or wish this whole package was still available, because it's certainly got its flaws like anything related to this project, but it is not a bad listen. And just restoring Don't Let Me Down to the album alone is an excellent idea, in my opinion. Well, having listened to this finally, having waited so many years, and I respect Glyn Johns, I like a lot of his other work, but I have to say I can totally see now why the Beatles rejected this version of the Get Back, Let It Be album projects. And mind you, the version we got here in the United States supposedly is a sort of composite between two of the different mixes Glyn Johns did. And it's not his mixing that's the issue, the sound quality or anything, at least on this that you're looking at, but the choice of takes. A lot of the takes he chose, I think some people have said that maybe he's purposely trying to sabotage the project, but I think that he just felt, well, it's supposed to be a documentary, back to roots, back to nature, rough takes of things. It's not supposed to sound polished, and so that's kind of what he went with. I don't know the exact take numbers, I could look those up, but I'm wondering if they're not very early takes, maybe, that he went with. In any event, I mean, it's not a bad album, it's just not all that it could be. So I'm going to help everyone out. And I thought of this years ago. This, I think I even thought of before Let It Be Naked came out. This is my way of getting you the best version of this material. And you still get, you know, the documentary feel of something like this or of the movie, but you also get great music, and it sort of all combines into what I think would have been a great, probably ended up being a double album. But I made a cassette of this, I remember, that I listened to in the 90s and early 2000s. And I used the film because I had access to that, and the original album, of course, Past Masters 2, bootlegs. So this is how I put it together. First, you would start out with the 45 version of Get Back, that, you know, finished, nice, polished version, everything. Follow that with the fast version, which is pretty short, of Two of Us, and that's in the film, early in the film. Next, there's a tune, Watching Rainbows. It's one of the few that I've never heard anywhere else, was not rewritten or anything into something else from these sessions or released on a solo album. And I just had an excerpt of that from bootleg. I would follow that with The Walk, which at the time I also only had on the bootleg, but now we hear in glorious sound and at the correct speed on the sessions discs of Get Back from the Nagra reels. So that's good that we've got that slightly longer as well. I would follow that with the version of Teddy Boy, actually from Anthology 3. There's a lot of good stuff from these sessions on Anthology 3, and that's one of them that I would pick. Oh, and actually I should have left that there, because then I would follow it with the Rip It Up Rock and Roll medley that they had also on Anthology 3, which we can see, I think, part of in the original film. Next, I do the version of I Me Mine on Let It Be. Now, I know people love to hate Phil Spector even more than they used to after his last 20 years of unpleasantness. And, you know, certainly you could make a case that this album was overproduced by him if you're comparing it to the Glyn Johns version or even what George Martin might have done. But in many cases, he did a great job, such as I Me Mine. He extended it. He added a nice sweeping orchestra that was not too obtrusive. So the version of that on here, I would go with. And by the way, the remix makes things a little bit sharper, a little bit clearer, as all good remixes do. But when I'm referring to the original album versions of things in this video, in this last part of the video, I'm referring to either the remix or the original. It's up to you. They're both fine. The original mix, I mean, of this. Because I expected, for example, a lot of the strings to be muted or taken out in this remix, but no. Giles Martin left them in and kind of went with what Phil Spector had originally done, and that's fine. Moving on next, the eighth tune. The eighth tune on this first quote-unquote side, I would put Dig It, the long version from the film. Then I would follow that with the version of Let It Be on the 45, because we have to get some George Martin in here someplace, and I prefer that a little bit to the one on the album, the original album. And then I would go back to the original album for Maggie May, just a nice little closer as we had on the original LP. Going to what would have been side 2 of this thing, I would have put the medley that starts with I'm Ready. It's sometimes labeled Rocker or whatever, and that's actually on this Glyn Johns one, finally in decent sound quality. And they actually even go into Don't Let Me Down a little bit, which we'll get to in a moment. The second cut on the second side would be The Long and Winding Road. I would actually pick the version from Anthology 3. I know I said I like the strings somewhat on the original and on the remix, and I'm fine with them, but there's just a simplicity or something that I like about the one on Anthology 3. Next, I would do For You Blue. Now, the versions of that, whether you're talking Anthology 3 or the 50th anniversary set or the original, they're all similar, or Let It Be Naked, and I have no problem with any of them. My favorite, though, is the one that's got a very long intro in the film, the instrumental introduction, where they're all jamming. So I would go with that. Next, I would now put the original LP version, as we all know it, of Two of Us from the original LP. And this sort of shows the documentary phase of this, as I've discussed, where, you know, we heard a song earlier on the album that was being worked on, and now we've got a finished product. Next, I would do the mix from the 45 of Don't Let Me Down, and that's on, Past Masters 2, that's on Mono Masters, that's on numerous albums. The new set, of course, has a remix, so whichever one you like, I would go with that. Next, for I've Got a Feeling, honestly, this song, it kicks so much. You can pick the one from Glyn Johns, you can take the one from the original album, you could even take the one from Let It Be Naked. All of those versions are, I don't want to say similar, but they all have their own merits and they all come out pretty well. So I would go with any of those, although I do prefer the way that the one on the original album ends, just by a tiny bit. Next, I would say I would put Dig a Pony, the version from the film, because it starts with that swelling All I Want Is, which got cut out on all the other versions. So I like that. And then I'm leaving these all here because I would take any version of One After 909 from those, or even from this. Now, there seems to have only been one good take captured for these three from the rooftop. They're all very similar because they're the same take, and so those are fine. But now, finally, we got another take on this album that's a little bit looser, a little bit rockier. I like that too, so depending on what kind of mood you're in, you can pick one, pick the other. They're not different enough that I would have included them both to give the documentary feel on this first, on this album, for my version of the album. And then I would close things with Get Back, the version from the end of the film, which is excerpted on here on the Glyn Johns album. But really, what you want is the entire one where the police come up and they shut off the amplifiers and the guitars go out for a while and Paul is ad-libbing. That's what I think you would like. And that's a great way to end not just this album, but of course the film, the original film, as we all know it. And it might be the way that they end the new documentary, but as I said, I haven't seen it and I probably won't. The only thing I've left out here is Across the Universe, because I just feel like the version on the original album is, it sounds so tired and ragged because it's the original recording from 1968 slowed down. It just doesn't fit in any way, shape, or form. If there's a version on here that I really felt strongly about, I might say to include that. If you really love that song, you could maybe sneak that in amongst the middle of side 2. But beyond that, I feel like that just belongs elsewhere. And maybe if they ever do a deluxe edition of Yellow Submarine, Magical Mystery Tour, that whole period between Sgt. Pepper and the White Album, of all those sessions, it would be a good fit to put it on there. But for now, that's the way that I would make my version of the Get Back, Let It Be album. I would definitely, though, still use this cover, because that is a great jacket. It would have been a great way to end the Beatles' career.